Welcome to a new release on the show. This is the 5 questions to nourish the mind, body and soul, to get to know the person sat in front of me a little bit more and ask them questions they wouldn't normally have. This has become very quickly one of my favourite parts of the interview. Now, we are re-releasing these because we released these months ago for our paid subscribers over on my newsletter, The Compassionate Cure on Substack. If you're not a paid subscriber, you will get these months in advance as being part of our community. However, we are now starting to release them. So enjoy. This is more of a personal connection and a shorter episode, but it really gets into the heart and not into the mind of the person who is sat in front of me. Dee and Aisha, aka the Brain Docs, my favourite name I have to say of anyone who's ever come on the show. I'm going to do our Substack questions, the 5 questions to nourish your mind, body and soul. And the only ask that I have for this is that you answer directly from the heart and not from the mind. Because most of us who come on this show intellectualize things very, very quickly. And I love that. But this is more intuitive, so it comes from the heart. So are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So either one of you can answer first. We'll see who's the most intuitive at each question. So what is the one thing about both of you that makes you uniquely you?
I think for me, the most important thing that I value about myself, and values are critical. I know that we're neurologists and brain docs, but the most important thing about me is curiosity.
Beautiful. I've always loved the fact that I'm patient and adaptable. And I think that comes from my background of traveling a lot as a child and being a part of different cultures and communities. And so I feel that that is one of my superpowers. If you throw me in a situation and I feel uncomfortable, I can quickly find a lot of things that I'm comfortable with. I focus on our similarities rather than distancing myself from things.
Wow. So adaptability as well, I kind of hear in there as well. Adaptability, patience and curiosity. What a duo. Incredible. Okay. So you're smashing this already. So the next question is about overcoming resistance, because it's a big area of our life, and I'm sure you'll know that's really important for our brain health. So what's been the most persistent area of resistance in both of your lives, and how did you overcome it? I know it's hard to answer in short form, but let's see if we can try.
Mine is a fear-based approach to every task. And fear manifests in so many different ways. Saying no to things. The first word that comes to your mind is a no, or the anxiety that you feel when something new is introduced. That has been a big challenge for me. And I'm so glad that I have an amazing partner that reminds me or highlights that, this is actually coming from that fear-based pattern that you want to get rid of. So why don't we reevaluate the situation? That has been a consistent it has been a challenge, and I'm getting better and better at it. I'm reminding myself that that's a fear-based approach that is stopping me from being the best version of myself.
I connect to that very much.
I love that. I'm not going to change from that, because I think that's central. That's core. Our brain has infinite capacity. 87 billion neurons, 1 quadrillion connections. It has infinite capacity. What stops us after a certain age of learning is fear. And all the different manifestations of fear. As much as most people would look at me and think of me as fearless with my back. No, we all have our fears that stop us. And as we get older, we develop language that is actually fear-based that limits us. So for both of us, and for me as well, paying attention to what fear element is stopping me from growing into that infinite capacity, what we all have.
That's amazing. And also, when I hear the word fear, I also very closely relate it to the emotion of excitement, because they're quite similar as well. Although they're very opposite end of the spectrum, the emotion can be very similar.
Yeah,
very true.
Absolutely.
So this is quite interesting. So this is around small changes that have a big impact. So what's been the smallest change that has brought the most ease into both of your lives? So nothing huge, but something quite small.
This is a wonderful question, because I really, truly believe in small ripples. They have massive effect. And the smallest change in my life that has had the biggest effect has been my choosing to go outside of my comfort. And it seems like a small thing. For example, in a party, I'm standing there, and the one thing that makes me worried or makes me uncomfortable, I just take a step in that direction. So that sounds weird. Like, why would a step make? No, it's that first step. Even though it's that first step, it's that first line that you write, it's that first statement that you make, it's that first glance that you gaze. It's that first thing that's outside of your comfort, and it's a small little thing. But guess what? That sets the ripple for that motion that becomes an ocean. Without that first step, I know it sounds cliche, but it's not cliche. Psychologically, your nose starts with your frontal lobe. It serves its function. You don't touch the stove. But guess what? We overgeneralize that everywhere. And if you take that first step and you make yourself that person that takes that first step, that first word, that first uncomfortable thing, that becomes the basis of your mindset. So it's the first step in everything.
Yeah. For me, it's being okay with failure.
Mm-hmm.
Failure is not failure. It's not this huge, bombastic, devastating, catastrophic thing that happens to you. Failure is data. And I know that, the cliche flip the script, and we hear it a lot. It truly was flipping the script. And I attribute it to having Dean in my life where, when you fail, consider that as a data point to change. And knowing that you have to make a whole lot of failure if you want to be someone who is significant in this world was so freeing. It just allowed me to continue to participate in things and try different things and not really catastrophize failure. I think that has reflected itself in my pattern of eating, my exercise, my relationships, my motherhood, my womanhood, me being a friend, a daughter. Every aspect of my life has positively experienced that because I just changed that definition.
We have 2 teenagers, and the central theme is you're not failing enough. Imagine how freeing that is. You're not failing enough.
I love that. When I had spoke to Stephen Bartlett, he's actually hired a head of failure on his team because he believes it's the most important thing for his company.
Yeah.
And it's true. Both of your questions, both of your answers to my one question beautifully coincide, because I think the faster that you can fail, so you're not scared of failing, the quicker you can put the step forward into a new kind of data point that you want to move out of your comfort zone. So they kind of work hand in hand.
100%.
They do.
This CFO is more important than the other CFO. Chief Failure Officer versus Chief Financial Officer.
I love that. You just don't want to be failing too much in your finances.
No. but yeah, so not to belabor this point, if you're taking life as data, the likelihood of failure becomes less.
Well, think about AI.
Yeah, data.
Such a good point, right? Okay, so health transformation. So this is always quite an interesting one for everybody who comes on this show, because everybody who comes on this is obviously excelling in health. So what's the one health-related change that you've made, both, that has significantly impacted your well-being?
Celebrating incremental success in health. Patting yourself in the back if you eat an apple. Removing that fancy schmancy couch and putting your elliptical in front of the library or the TV. That's a win. And I think, but truly, it is like the small changes that you make in your day-to-day life. You don't necessarily have to make huge changes. That has been amazing because at the end of the day, you count them and man, you made a lot of positive changes.
It's like the ripples that Dean was talking about.
Yeah, for me, it's the superfood that I've added. It's greens, just greens. We're plant-based, but we never push that because there are all these diet wars. Why? Why the diet wars? Everybody agrees We know that if somebody eats a cup of greens a day consistently, their brain is 11 years younger. That's not a magic food. You don't have to go to Thailand or some island off of Fiji to get it. It doesn't have a fancy name. It's just greens. Whatever you're eating, yeah, less processed is good. We don't need to get into all of that. Adding greens to your diet is literally the superfood. The data on that is not questionable by anyone. So no need for diet wars. Add greens. And that has changed my migraines, and I know I'm against anecdotes. I don't believe in anecdotes. So, but I'll give you the number of problems that I had that went away by just adding greens is just bewildering. And by the way, you don't have to spend tons and tons of money for this superfood, which is just greens.
Gosh, I love that. Okay. We're going to have to talk about this more in the main show. I'm holding back. Okay, so the last question is quite a profound question. So it's making peace with the past. So what's been the hardest thing for you to make peace with about yourself or your life in general?
I think we talk about this a lot, especially with the kids. We don't believe in guilt. Not because it's a soft thing like, oh, forget about guilt. No, it's not neurologically meaningful. Guilt is something that stops you. So my thing is not so much something that I can't align myself with the past. It's changing my mindset that was raised. All of us humans have been raised in a guilt-ridden world in every way. And I mean, that was a very blunt mechanism of control for parents, wasn't it? I mean, we had great parents, but still, it was a mechanism for millennia. It was easy. Fear and guilt was easy. So for me, it's been that shift from not so much guilt or coming in terms with the past, is looking at it in even the most painful situations. My high school times was pretty rough, even though I was pretty good athlete, and that helped a little. But I had some rough times. That's a separate show altogether. But looking at it and loving myself in that moment and seeing the growth in that moment and learning from that moment, not so much, and even the mistakes I made, even the horrible things that I might have done, but looking at it in a loving way, and that flip actually allows you to love yourself in the bigger context. And that's what's important to me is that it's not so much coming in terms with the past, but loving yourself in the context of all those manifestations is critical, because it's actually neurologically accurate.
That's beautifully stated. I think it's similar for me, and we spend so much time together. So I'm sorry if the thoughts are overlapping, but just reminding myself that there is no blame. Everything happened because of either genetics or the impact of the environment. And that completely changes my mindset from looking at the past as something that determines my story of myself, and as just a point in time. And so I don't ever try to dwell in the past, which sometimes makes me concerned because I don't even remember details of stories and situations anymore. I'm always looking forward to the future, and I'm really enjoying the present. And every morning I wake up and I have trained myself to think of it as this incredible opportunity to do amazing things. And even if I make a mistake, now or an hour later, tomorrow's another day and I'll do better and better. And so I look at myself fondly as this beautiful kid who was living in a complex world and sometimes didn't make any sense. And I've developed so much love for that little girl. I've developed so much love for the stories of my grandfather, my father, my mother, my siblings. And it's all this beautiful concept, even though we had a lot of difficulties and hardships, but the story is beautiful, and I'm just so grateful for all of it.
I could not be happier that you both ended on that, because the name of this Substack is called The Compassionate Cure.
Oh.
And all of my work is dedicated with nutritional science to self-compassion, with the science behind it. So you literally, and I talk about the neurological changes that happen in the brain. So you could not obviously you could probably see the smile that was growing on my face as you were both answering this, like I'd scripted you, that you knew what it was about.
Sarah, I know that this is not in the structure, but I'll add. So we have, with the kids, I say, don't make yourself into something, live values. And one of the core values, one of the first values, is compassion for yourself.
I love that. We're going to deep dive into that now. It's not on my script, but we're definitely going to go into that because I'd love for you to explain more into the main show. Actually, some of the science that you see happens when we have self-compassion, because I think it's the most underrated tool, and it's one that we're not taught, and we're evolutionary, more wired to be critical. So we really have to learn this, I think, and it's really important. And when we can mirror it to others, people find it easier because we can show empathy and all of those important emotions. So gosh, I'm excited about our main episode. Thank you. You absolutely smashed that. And we're gonna go into the main bit.